Test, test. Is this thing on? Okay. And now, for those in attendance and those listening around the world, it is time for the O on God podcast with your host, Tovaun Eaxis Anthony.
What's going on, everybody? It is Tovaun Anthony. Welcome back to another episode of the O on God podcast. I am here with my friend, wonderful dude, amazing guy, the master of horror, E.L. Jefferson. E.L. Books himself. How you doing, brother?
Pretty good.
Good to see you. Finally, I could say I had you on here.
Yeah, we've been trying to get together for, last year or so?
Yeah, man.
Just now getting together?
It's been something else. Yeah. Man. Like, for those of you that don't know, Jeff, that's what we call you. Like, he's a novelist, writes horror, writes children's books sometimes, but mainly horror books. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if you are into horror at all, give any one of his series a try. It is not your average horror. It's not about ghosts. It's not about goblins. None of that stuff. It is literally anything that you read is something that can possibly happen. Yep. That's what I'll say. But first of all, how was your week, man?
Good. We're getting ready for a show here in Hunts Valley, Maryland this weekend. So I've been packing all week for that show and laying the foundation for my next book.
Okay. What's the name of the event?
Monster Mania.
Okay.
It's in Hunts Valley, Maryland.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool stuff. Have you done that event before?
Yes. Actually, Monster Mania is one of our main cons. They have 3 shows, 2 in Jersey, in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Then they have 1 show in Huntsville, Maryland. So, and they added another show in PA. So we do those shows every year.
Okay. All right, cool. Like how many, well, I know like over the past few years, especially before the pandemic, you guys were like revving up and getting to different areas and stuff like that. Is there any particular spot that was the most memorable to you?
Well, all the shows are fun. We do a number of shows. Monster Mania, Days of the Dead, that's based in Atlanta. Creature Feature. We do a lot of different shows. So if I had to say which one is the most fun, Monster Mania.
Okay.
Definitely Monster Mania. They have the better guess.
Oh, okay.
Days of the Dead is also a fun show. The staff is awesome. We have a lot of fun at that show also. I like doing that show because it's a fun show. And we all make good money at all of these shows, but I like those 2 the most, Monster Mania and Days of the Dead.
Good. No, hey, you made a couple of points. If you're doing a convention or a festival or anything like that, the staff, if they're good to you, that's a must, man. Like, because you know me, I perform at these festivals and stuff, and I've been in some situations where you don't know what's going on, you don't know who to talk to, and everything's up at the last minute, and you're stressing, and that's like the worst deal.
It's crazy. As a vendor at these events, because we sell more than just my horror novels, but the vendors are an important part of any convention. Without the vendors, there's no show. Because we front the money for the promoters to bring in their guests, do what they have to do. But when you see when vendors are worried about what's going on in the show, it's trouble. Yeah. I only seen that one time, actually it was last year, Chiller Theater, that's also in New Jersey. That is an awesome show. The promoter's a good guy, but on this particular weekend, it's like he fell asleep because as the vendors were checking in, the tables were unmarked, everybody was frustrated, nobody knew where to go, and he didn't want to leave his table to come straighten this shit out. So vendors took it upon themselves to take tables and just mess up the whole order. So he had to then step in and straighten everything out. But yeah, when you're at a show or convention and you're a guest or a performer, or in our case, vendors, and man, something don't feel right, or the promoters are not into this thing, or it's just something wrong, you get a bad vibe. And that carries through the whole show. Yeah,
no, you're absolutely right. We've dealt with that, me and my band, we've dealt with that with the same convention for 2 years in a row, which is why like we're just not performing at it anymore. The first time we performed there, they had screwed things up so bad that they didn't even have us listed as a band. They had us listed as a panel. Like we were coming to talk to people.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay. And then they didn't know which stage we were playing on until the day of. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So this year when we actually went over, because they requested us again, I was like, do y'all want to do it? They said, yeah, sure. I'm like, okay. So we went there. we got our credentials. We didn't talk to anybody. We ran to the sound guy. I'm like, I don't care. We talking to whoever's at the stage right now. Like, and we kind of had to run it that way because I'm like, if we depend on what these guys are doing, specifically, but I don't give them too much fault about it. Like the music for that specific convention is like the last priority on their list. So like normally they take care of their vendors and stuff like that, but music is like the afterthought. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So until they get that straight, I'm not really worried about it anymore. But yeah, no, definitely. It's good to have good staff, good liaisons, good, everything. It just makes the whole experience better. It does. Man. Let's get back to you for a second though. I'm like, what brought you to the point where you wanted to pursue writing novels in the first place?
Okay. Well, that goes back to my military days. I was in the Air Force. I used to write what I call dark poetry. I'm not a poet, but I found myself scribbling. And when I was on Guam, my first base, when I was in the Air Force back in the 80s, I was the only guy from D.C. in my whole barracks. I didn't know any of these guys. Until guys can feel you out, nobody talks to you. So I'm like, man, I don't want to be with these motherfuckers, man. So anyway, I didn't have any friends early on. So I started writing, longhand. And it just took on a life of its own. Yeah. And I kept that up through my entire 4.5 years in the Air Force. And I let it go. I just dropped it when I got out. And then my youngest son, Ed, who we used to go to Borders all the time, bookstore. Because he loved going to Borders and get his books. So I had a buddy who worked at the Borders in Waldorf. And she would hear me complain about the books I was buying. Oh, man, these books weren't shit. Man, I can guess the ending. Halfway through the story, I know what's going to happen at the end. And it was frustrating. And she got tired of hearing me complain about that all the time. She said, Jeff, why don't you just write your own damn horror stories? I'm like, huh? I'm like, I'm not a writer. That's not what I do. She's like, well, you have all these books in your collection. You come in by like 4 or 5 books a week. You complain to me after you read them the very following week. Write your own. And I ain't pay that any mind. About a year later, though, I thought about it. I was at work. I thought about it. You know what? What the hell? I'm tired of reading these horror stories that they're repetitive. A lot of writers, especially the big writers, when they get famous and world renowned, their writing slacks off. They start writing stories that are predictable. It's like a formula that they use to put their stories out. So I said, I didn't want to be that way. But then I had to look at myself and say, what kind of story do I want to write? So I'm in law enforcement. So I said, well, I don't want to do true crime type stories, but that's what it evolved into. So my love for writing actually occurred when I published my first novel. For me, with the first book was just, what would you say? Something to satisfy myself alone. I didn't have any plans for selling the book. I didn't want to put it out there. It was just a personal accomplishment for me. And after it was done, I got the book. I was like, oh man, I did this. I wrote this book. We'll come back to that first book. But that's how it started. And once I got going, although I didn't know a thing about writing books, publishing, editing, formatting, none of that shit before I started. Because again, my goal wasn't to actually put out a book like these. It was just to write a manuscript, put it in, have somebody put it in book form for me, to add to my collection. I'm like, well, I did that one, But this thing took a life all of its own, especially after I did my first book fair. Because when I published my first book called What Do You Fear? And don't go look for that book. What Do You Fear was fucked up. And I'll tell you why in a minute. I did my first children's book based on Ed's work. Because he wrote 4 stories. He was in grade school, probably, I think, first grade, second grade. And the stories were so unique. He was a 5-6-year-old kid, right? My son wrote this. Pretty nice. So I always said that if I ever did anything with publishing, I would publish the stories first. And you, of course, did the artwork for all the stories. But after the first book fair that we did, I got bit by the writing bug. But I knew my first novel wasn't up to par. Actually, I found out it wasn't up to par for many reasons. And I was kind of down on myself for that because Ed told me, he say, Pop, you might want to redo this before you reconsider putting this out before you put this out, you may want to reconsider how this thing is written, how it's been edited, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, man, get out. I don't hear that shit, man. All the way I put in that book, man, I put my heart and soul into them stories. And everything went well for the first year. Until I got that very first review on Amazon.
There you go.
And I got to tell you, it broke my heart. Because the reviewer, and he was honest. And I found the guy 3 years later. I'm not going to tell you where to find it or how to find it, but it's still there. The book had a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Again, I wrote this novel and I knew nothing about editing, formatting, none of that stuff. And actually I found, again, it wasn't my job, no, but anyway, I did it according to the company who I hired to publish the book. I followed their rules. Anyway, so when I got that poor review, and I thought about it, Ed tried to tell me the same damn thing this guy said in his review, and it's posted online. And I'm like, oh man. So I thought about it and I'm like, well, I got to fix this. So I pulled the book as it was out of circulation. Fortunately, I was able to do that. I said, I got to find an editor. Because the crazy part about it is I wrote the first novel. It was a compilation of 10 short stories. And I loved them. Everybody who sampled them loved them. But they were edited poorly. Very poorly. And all I did was make the corrections and changes that the company told me to make. And it wasn't right. So after I pulled What Do You Fear Book 1 out of circulation, I found an editor. And she was freelance. And when Kim got finished that book, it read totally different. Totally different. And I'm like, I compared the two. I'm like, okay, first of all, as a writer, if you're going to be a writer, write. Any writer who edits his own work is stupid.
You're in a place, man. It's a different field.
Yeah, different field, different world, because as a writer, you have passion about the story you're telling. And you're close to the story. And as a writer, you're going to make errors. That's okay. That's what editors for. But see, a lot of writers who I've met over the years, and I've seen stories that were totally unedited. I'm like, oh, dude, I need to talk to you about this. But anyway, when I found out what I was doing, I'm like, no, every story right now has to be edited professionally because a lot of writers don't want to pay. Yeah. Editing is extremely expensive. And it hurt me the first time I edited. I had to redo the first book. It was very expensive. I said, you know what? Forget it. It's worth it. And then as the months and years went on, and I learned a lot from Kim about writing, and it all fell into place. So I said, well, because Kim couldn't edit for me every stage because she's a school teacher. She was free in the summertime, but not during the school years. I have to find, and I went crazy trying to find an editor for my next book. And I found an editing service out of Canada that's out-fucking-standing.
What's the name of the service?
Scribendi.com.
There you go. Cool. Shout out to them.
They edit anything. Professional works, fiction, nonfiction, college paper, whatever you need, business letters, whatever you need edited, they will edit it for you. So once I found them, it was like full speed ahead.
That's really cool. Like I can compare that to like a little bit of your journey to like when I started making music, right? Because I had no idea about mixing. I had no idea like recording. Like the moment I had an interface at all, I'm like, okay, I just gotta plug my guitar in, play a little something, and hopefully everything turns out right. The first like I don't want to call it an album. It was just a few songs I put out, right? First few songs I put out. And I was proud of them. Like, okay, I did it. And then I had people coming in like, hey, man, the sound is everywhere. This is coming out only the left ear only. This is doing this, that, and I'm like, what? Like, I had no idea about any of that, man. And then going off of what you said, like, if you're a writer, like, you don't want to be the one editing it. Like, you can, but you don't want to be the one doing it. Because I had my friend Jay Diggs. He's a producer, and he was on the show not too long ago. And he recorded, mixed, and mastered his own album. And he was like, let me tell you something. Granted, it turned out great because he's a producer first before he's an artist. But he was like, I probably shouldn't have done that for a couple reasons. One, like it was just a couple of things I didn't really, see, because like you say, it's your baby.
And
it's
you're
your
close
thing.
to it, yep.
So you're so close to it, it's some things you might not hear. But then also, by the time you're done with it, you tired of it.
Exactly.
You are completely tired of it.
And any mistakes you made during the process of creating that work, it's done. It's going to stay in there.
Finished.
I don't feel like fixing it. And as a writer, you get the same thing because you spend weeks and months, and maybe sometimes even years, putting the manuscript together. And what I tell a lot of writers who I've met, and I continue to meet, especially young writers, new writers, write the story that you want to write. Once you get it finished, you'll know when it's finished. You'll know when it's finished. Go over the manuscript again, just straight reading. Don't make any corrections, just read. Sit it back, leave it alone, put it down for like 2-3 days and just think about it. Let it percolate. Then go back to it again. Then I'll find you an editor. Because don't touch it again. Because if you touch the story again, you keep making change after change after change, and it'll be fucked up. You're gonna always have new ideas that are gonna pop in your head, especially when the story is done. But you can't keep changing and making additions and all that kind of shit, because adding chapters and shit, because if you do that, it'll never be finished. The story will be finished. And like in music, I'm sure it's the same way. You play a certain instrument or whatever, you know what the keys are, how it's supposed to sound, blah, 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 but you still need somebody, that expert ear outside of the group to say, well, let's do this, let's do that. I mean, however it's done, how you do that? And writing is the same thing.
Yeah.
And with us, for me, it's an editor.
Yes, it's a little bit more direction. You got your musicians, you got your producers, and you got other stuff. And then like, all right, let's talk about like publishing and everything, right? Because even like for me, when it came to music, getting my stuff out there, I had no idea about what I had to do, who I had to call, what type of things I had to have in place in order for me to get paid, just in case it got played somewhere. It's like, it doesn't just stop at the art itself.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I like to talk about with different artists I know that are either just getting into it or, even some people that have been around for a while, they still might not know, might not understand. And it's like, look, this is necessary. One, to protect you because it's your work. Yeah. And then put that money in your pocket. Yeah. So yeah, man, like when it came to publishing and everything, like how has like the process, I guess,
evolved?
Yeah, evolved for you, like over the years.
That question is very good because it's interesting because my first novel, I didn't have a clue what I was doing, the cover art, the editing, of course. And again, I'm going to tell you in the beginning, I didn't want to publish the book. I just want the manuscript. And you can have your manuscripts, whatever they are, put in book form.
That's true.
That's it. If you have no intent on selling them, that's fine. But I thought about that after the manuscript was done. I said, no, let me go ahead and put it in professional form and see how it goes. So now I got to find a publisher. And I had been told months or years prior to me finishing the manuscript, the one thing a lot of writers do, they make a mistake. The biggest mistake you can make is mailing your manuscript out to publishers.
Yeah.
Because it's going to find its way in the trash can. If you go to any major publisher's website, they will tell you, do not send in unsolicited manuscripts. And I know a lot of guys who've done that. And they're still waiting. I'm like, well, you a fucking idiot.
Slim.
The thing is, I mean, major publishing houses don't deal with particularly unknown writers. Unless you have a hell of an agent and they get your work in front of somebody that can help you. But finding a publisher was tricky because I needed to find a publishing service. I wasn't going to wait and see if somebody picked me up as a writer. Yeah. I didn't care about that. And I still don't care about that. So I found somebody online. They were called Rose Dog Publishing. So a nice website. So I went on their website, checked them out, talked to a rep. And I said, okay, this is my first outing doing this. So let's give them a shot. Mistake. Big mistake. Big mistake. But then I made so many, it didn't matter. I was learning from, I learned from every mistake I made, but I made a ton of mistakes. So I went with Rose Dog. They edited the manuscript, a line edit only, straight line edit. I didn't know what that was. I said, cool. So they sent the manuscript back to me with all the corrections. And I had 4 days to make corrections to a 150-page manuscript. So me and Janet working around the clock, me and my wife, around the clock, making these corrections by hand. Then I had to mail that shit back into them.
Oh.
Okay, when I got the book back, I was proud as shit of that book. I'm like, oh man, it's my novel, it's my book. I wrote this. But even going with self-publishing your work, there are a lot of things you have to know. A lot of things you should not do. I learned as I went along. Find a good company first. I mean, the first company I found online, boom, that's who I went with. And I didn't know what to look for.
I mean, that's also the excitement factor. You
that
just
too.
want to get it done.
That too.
Yeah.
So over the years, I've learned from all my mistakes, and I know what to do, what not to do. When I meet new writers or young writers, man, my advice is free. I can help you avoid making all the mistakes that I made as a writer. And my advice is free. The thing is, finding a publisher is one thing. Once you find your publishing service.
Okay, there you go.
Publishing service. Because you do your manuscript, and before you send your manuscript off to anybody, you have to copyright it. That you can do on your own.
Yep.
Library of Congress, Form TX. Fill the form out, send a copy of the work, whether it be in electronic form or hard copy form. Mail it off, and you're good. See, why people think, and I don't know where they got this bullshit from. I heard this in the early years. Take your manuscript, put it in an envelope, mail it to yourself.
Yeah, I heard that a long time ago. I was like, okay, that's kind of ridiculous because you could prove that you had it first, but you still can't really prove it's yours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is totally idiotic. That must be urban legend. I don't know, but I've heard it from so many people. Mailing your manuscript to yourself does not get you a copyright.
No.
And see, again, what a lot of people don't want to do is they don't want to spend money.
Yeah.
And it only costs you maybe, the Library of Congress is greedy every year. It costs you now $125 to have yourself copywritten. It's worth every penny of it. But mailing your shit to yourself does nothing for you. Absolutely nothing. So, I mean, step by step, the process, actually, write the manuscript first. Get it edited professionally. Before you send a manuscript out to anybody, copyright it. That takes you 5 minutes to put the form in the mail and your payment, you're good. And then you're good to go. Boom. Then you get it edited. Then it comes back to you. You accept the edits or you don't. You make changes with you and your editor. Y'all talk, whatever. Get the manuscript right the very first time. So if you got a professional editor, get this shit done correct the first time. Because the more you go back, and I'm going to add something. The more you go back and change things and add things, it costs you more money.
Yep.
And editing is expensive. I mean, you talking, most freelance editors charge maybe anywhere between 5 cents and 25 cents per word. Let's do the math. I ain't got a calculator on me. If you
a lot
have 100,000 word manuscript and your editor charges you 25 cents per word, multiply that times 25 cents. That's a lot of goddamn money. That's a lot of money. And some even charge $1 per word. It just depends on what they're editing and what they do, how busy they are. But like freelance artists can charge a lot of money for their freelance work, for their original work.
Yep. A
freelance editor, because he or she is performing an outstanding service for you, one that you need, they won't pay. You can pay for it. And if you find an editing service like I did, like in Scribendi, it's expensive. It may cost you a few $1,000s, but it's worth every penny. So once you get the work edited, that's half the battle. If you find a good publishing service, you gotta be careful though. Contracts.
Yeah.
You gotta be careful because you will sign contracts. Yes, you have to read every damn word on a contract because if you don't, you could inadvertently sign your rights away to that book.
Yep. I know guys that have done that with like just music stuff, record labels, any type of publishing and stuff like that. It's like they'll see something and they're just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get my stuff out there, XYZ, da da da. Like, yeah, but you don't know none of this no more. You don't even own the whole album. You put all the money into it. So have fun.
And see, and the thing is with I don't know how it is with music publishing, but with publishing manuscripts, writing novels, you want a contract. If you're going to be paid by the publishing house or not. Since big publishers aren't going to come to you and you don't use a publishing service like I'm doing, they don't really care about how the work does. They have no bone. They have no dog in that fight. If a book succeeds, it does. If it doesn't, hey, ain't no one give a fuck. you only paid us to put your book and your manuscript in book form, which means I've seen writers who tried to format their own manuscripts. Of course, the editing, we already talked about that. I'm like, dude, for real, you did those yourself. This looks like shit, man. I'll be honest with you. You can read online how to do it. But if you're gonna be a writer, right? You don't format, you don't edit. You don't design your own covers. You hire pros for that. But some guys will do it all themselves. And then when they spend all that money and time, and today I wish I had one to show you. All that money and time producing their manuscript into a novel, it looks like shit. Because if edited wrong, it will not be what's the term? There's terminology for this. What I'm trying to think of. You might have to cut this out. Retail ready.
Okay.
It would not be retail ready.
There you go.
If you put the barcode in the wrong place, it can be a millimeter above or below. It can be a millimeter off that edge. It's not retail ready.
Yeah.
Nobody will touch it.
I learned about that when I was in school.
Yep.
When I was in school, because they were like, all right, now we referred to like the barcode and stuff like that as the ugly stuff, like whatever's not the artwork itself. He was like, understand, there are certain places, certain vendors, certain publishing service platforms, there's a way they have a whole structure going on there. And if you go outside of that structure,
we can't mess with it.
Nope.
It's not retail ready.
You're screwed.
And the thing is, you may go as a young artist, a young writer, whatever, you may go into this thing thinking, I'm going to change industry. You ain't going to change a damn thing.
You ain't changing nothing, bro.
You ain't changing shit.
It's been like this for years for a reason. And that's it.
Yep. You will comply to the rules that we set because that's the way it's supposed to be. So get all that out your head because you're not going to do that. But there's so many stuff you have to go through to publish a novel. And come to music, the same thing. But once you do it and make all your mistakes the first time, if you learn from them, you're fine. Second time around, okay, you know a little more. You talk to people. You talk to other artists. You talk to other editors. You talk to reps on the phone. But what can you do for me? You learn all of that. So as my time went on with this writing, I got better and better and better. Now I don't make mistakes. And like I said earlier, I really don't care whether people call me Stephen King. Jokingly. And it's an honor. I mean, I have no problem with that, especially my vendor buddies who know me. Chances are I'm not going to be the next Stephen King or James Herbert or whoever the fuck. I don't care.
You never know.
I write the stories I want to write for me.
There you go.
I have a fan base and people love my stories. Everybody who's read my books love them. Now, there's something I'm still learning. We'll get into that later. But when it comes to publishing, I got it down pat.
There you go. You gotta have that one part right, man. You gotta have that right.
You'll make mistakes, but you have to learn from it. If you don't learn from your mistakes, then you keep making them over and over again.
Yeah, and then you're gonna stay. First of all, you're not gonna progress.
Yep.
And you're just like, okay, well, what am I doing wrong?
Not listening for one. Not listening.
There you go. And that's one thing I want to talk about as well, because as artists, a lot of artists are I know I'm one of them. A lot of artists are very, like, introverted, right?
Yep.
And a lot of the times we don't get the biggest urge to go out and talk to people and, try to see other points of view to try to really expand what we're doing. And that's one thing, when you mention that, I'm like, yeah, that's something I had to learn personally. Because for me, like, I consider myself, I'm a little less of it now, but I consider myself more of like a selfish artist where I'm just like, okay, this is my artwork. I was the same way when I first made my first song. I didn't care about putting it out, nothing like that. And then I did, and, things came to be. But, I was in my own bubble for a good while. And I'm just like, okay, well, why isn't this happening? And why am I not getting booked on this show? And why am I not doing that? So I was like, oh, wait, you don't talk to people. You don't learn you're not learning from.
Learning business.
Exactly. You need to learn the business aspect of it. If you don't, how can you expect anything else?
Yeah.
Especially if you want to move.
Yep.
Like, it's fine. If you specifically just want to do it for yourself, that's fine. But if you want anything else to happen, you got to take steps.
You have to make the right moves. And what I tell a lot of people, especially at conventions, especially young people who come to me, is like, how did you write your first book? Tell me what you're wanting to do. No problem. We'll talk. You have to be willing to learn if someone wants to teach you. As an individual artist, you have no clue what you're going to get yourself into.
Man.
You don't know the business. You don't know the ups and downs of what you can get into. So you learn from other people. And the thing is, it doesn't matter what you do, what your art form is. It takes someone else to get you to the next level. It's always been that way. So that means if you get discovered, you do. If you don't, you can keep going, keep plodding through, but try to learn from every level. You know, like in my case, again, I could care less about New York Times bestseller or being discovered, the next great writer, blah blah blah. It's like this: if it happens, fine. If it doesn't, I don't give a fuck. And I'm gonna still keep writing, but I've learned the business. I do make money off my books. I get paid through Amazon and other publishing services because they carry my books. So I do get paid, and I make a lot of money when I sell them at conventions and book fairs.
Man, let me cut it real quick. This dude, just by watching you have taught me how to sell, dude. It doesn't make any sense. Like I've been at a few of the festivals with him, you know, signing books since I'm the artist of a few of them. And just watching him talk to people and get them like into just the idea of reading it in the first place. Because normally, and we talked about this before, when somebody, they'll come up, they see some books, they just kind of look dead-eyed at them, flip through a few pages, set it back down and go. But it's like, and we'll see other vendors who they'll just watch people come around and do that and watch people come around and they don't try to talk. They don't try to interact, nothing. Which, like I said, if you're an introvert, you know, that's fine. But if you're going to try to sell a product, you got to work on that experience.
Yes, you do.
And literally seeing how you approach people. It's not, how can I say this?
I don't do the hard sell thing.
No, not at all. It's almost like when you come up, it's almost like you're like their buddy. Like you're their bro. It's just, hey, what's going on? How's it hanging? Like,
you kind of have to, because at a book fair specifically, you have dozens or hundreds of writers there. And you may have hundreds and thousands of visitors. And they come to meet writers. They come to buy books. And they walk up and down the fair all day long. I mean, enjoying talking to the artists, talking to the writers, getting their point of view on different things. And it's fun. But if you're going to sit there at your table looking down or on your phone, on your computer, whatever, well, hey, if you can't look up and talk to me, I don't want to buy your shit. Obviously, it's not important to you. It's not important to me. I don't care. But when you interact with the guests, it's more personable. They get into it. They get more curious. And it's like you having fun, you know? And the way I do it, even at the conventions, at horror conventions, because a lot of horror cons, folks honestly don't come to buy books. They come to buy other things. They come to see the stars, celebrities, the panels, the movies, all of that, even in the vendor room. But I have seen many authors at horror cons who do the second thing I say don't do. They're like this at their tables. Flip through pages and shit. And I'm like, dude, you never sell one book.
Look up.
Yeah, look up. I mean, from time to time, at least say hi to the guests. I mean, because I had one person tell me, one young lady told me, she did the same thing. She walked from one of the tables and got to mine. I greeted her. I spoke to her, was jovial with her. She said, you know what? You're the first one of these authors who even said anything to me. And after we talked more and more, she bought every book I had out. She bought one of each copy.
Dang.
And I've heard from her since, and she loved them all.
Hey.
But again, if you're going to be doing things like this, whether you're introverted or not, especially at cons, you have to be willing to get out there, put yourself, because as a writer and as an artist, as a musician, you put yourself out there when you put this shit in the public eye. That's why it has to be as good as it can be. You have to make sure it's perfect. As perfect as you can get it. Because if it's crap, you will hear it's crap.
Oh, yes.
You hear about it, you know? But yeah, so I mean, even though a lot of artists are introverted or they're not out there like that, at a convention, at a book fair, at a music festival or whatever, you have to be, because it's like you almost have to wear two faces. You have your musician's face or your con face or your writer's mentality going in the public. At home, you can be the way you want to be.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, nobody cares about your personal life, at least at this point anyway. But when you're out in the street, when you're out in the field, you have to be willing to take criticism, talk to people, explain to somebody who asks you why you write this book. You know, I had it's going to sound kind of fucked up. I had I didn't know he was a minister at first, priest or whatever the fuck he was. See, we're there chilling. And I saw him walking down the aisle across from me. He was making a circuit. Paid the guy no mind. So I'm off the side smoking. And Janet, my wife was at the table. So I put the cigarette out, sat down, chilling. So here he comes. So he and I start talking about my books. He approached me from the standpoint that he was interested in my stories, my horror novels. So we're talking and talking. I'm feeling good. He's feeling good. So then he hit me with something off the wall. He say, of all this genre out there, why did you choose horror? I said, well, I've always been a horror fan since I was 5 years old, watching Werewolf and Frankenstein, those kind of characters in the movies, black and whites. And as I grew up, as I got older, I just found that I like comedies, adventures, dramas, but horror's in my soul. I love horror. So that's my chosen genre. Then he hit me with all this, not to offend anybody or to offend your listeners. He came in from a religious point of view. And I'm like, sir, well, I respect your point of view, and I know where you're going with this. I choose horror because that's what I like to write about. I respect your point of view. Do me the same courtesy, you know. Honestly, I don't want to hear you preach to me. I don't hear that bullshit, you know. I'm a horror writer. So is he. So is she. So is that guy right there. I mean, you have some romance novelists out here. You have sci-fi novelists out here. You have anime guys out here. And you have horror guys out here, you know. But I don't need you coming down on me because I choose to write horror novels. I mean, and Janet saw me get angry. And I tried to maintain my cool. Almost lost it for a minute until he agreed to just walk the fuck away. You know? And I'm like, man, I didn't ask for any of that. I've been having a good day all day long. Here this guy come fronting at first, like he's interested in my work, picks the book up and he hits me for all this religious stuff. And I'm like, that's fine, I respect it. There's nothing wrong with that. But my chosen field, my chosen genre is horror. And you're not going to change that. If I was Stephen King, would you talk shit to him?
Probably not.
Yeah. I mean, you want to be all in his ass. I mean, Stephen King, he worked like the country's foremost horror writer. I mean, you wouldn't come down on him for that, you know? But you meet all kinds, and you have to learn how to deal with them. All kinds of people.
Look, it's still a social event.
Yep.
It's still a social event. And hey, look, you're right about that. Because, I mean, look, I've had that happen to me too, like at shows and stuff like that. They hear about, listen to my music live, and then, you know, I'll have some people come up to me, and it's only been one time where someone came to me from a religious standpoint, but that was because they grew up with me, and they didn't know at the time that I no longer was associating myself with like Adventism or Christianity, really. I'm like more of an agnostic, and even my drummers identify as atheists, right? So when they were kind of like asking me like, oh, you know, well, what made you do this? Da, da, da. I'm like, hey, look, man, this is what's coming from me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm going to keep on doing it.
I mean, it's my art, it's my music, it's my written word. I mean, because again, I can quit writing if I chose to. But I put out these horror novels, and I plan on making Unleash a 4-part series. So I love writing. I'm not going to stop writing. I can do it. I'm actually good at it now. And I have a good cover artist. You know, Tony did all these covers except for Twisted Justice. I did that one.
You did that one.
It took no skill to do that.
Man, no, it's wonderful working with you on these books, man. I'm gonna tell you. Well, one of the reasons why it's good working with you on these novels is because you come to me with an idea already. That's like the one thing that I wish I can get from most people that I work with. You give me at least, if you don't have exactly what you want, you give me a general idea that I can work with. There are people that come up, all right, I need a cover. Okay. And it's like, I need it to look good.
Well, what's the concept? I mean, give me something to work with.
What you need, I can put, you know, I can make it your front yard, but you wanted it to look like that. Like, it's crazy. But just real quick, going back to, you know, just talking about the fact that it's a social event and you got to talk to people. That's something that, like I said, watching you work is kind of what put me in the right state. Because I remember when I first started really playing out, like more often, one thing that people noticed, and it was my drummer that brought it up to me at first, is like I would go on stage, perform, everyone liked me, but then I would disappear. I would just either be backstage or I'm ready to get in the car and go home. You know, I'm ready to just do my thing. But in that setting, it's like everyone wants to talk to you. Because music is a place where once people show up, they already see your work.
Yeah.
That's it. Like they're taking it in.
Mm-hmm.
So like at least from like a writer standpoint, they at least still have to open the book.
Mm-hmm.
The cover is what hooks them,
Yep.
like is what grabs them.
Yep.
But they still have to open the book to get the content. With music, it's right in front of you.
Yeah.
Point blank, period. So now that these people are interested, and I'm nowhere to be found because I could barely talk to people back then. Like, I mean, Ed'll tell you, I'd hide behind him in some places, man. They were crowds of people. And it's just like, no, you have to talk to people. You have to talk to people. You gotta, or they're gonna move. They're like,
yeah,
okay.
I mean, and you can pull in fans by just interacting with them.
That's true.
You know,
the amount of people when I played at this event this year, BlurCon, that showed up to the show just because I saw them in the hallway and was just talking, I'm performing, just being a decent guy. I'm like, I didn't know half of them were going to show up, but they showed up.
Yeah.
If I didn't talk to them, probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got to interact one way or another.
You have to.
Or it has to be something. If you're not going to interact, you have to have some kind of shtick, something that's going to hook these people in. You know, I like to tell people, look at it like the professional wrestler. Yeah. Like there's the guy that's flashy, got all the crazy moves that you want to see, and then there's the Undertaker.
And he has the personality.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, you have to have even the persona. You have to project that or at least project confidence.
Yes.
Because at cons, you haven't seen our con tables, but I sell Egyptian statuettes, horror statuettes, lanterns, Halloween lanterns, Janus dolls, my books, dragons. I mean, when my table's put together at a show, when other vendors buy your shit, you know you tight.
Oh, yeah.
Other vendors buy my stuff before the public even gets in here. You know? And
hey, one day you're going to sell out before the public gets in there.
It happens all the time. And I'm like, you know your shit is tight when other vendors are buying your shit. You know? It happens all the time at every show. But the thing is, I let my table speak for me. People have called me anal. If I sell a piece, my balance is messed up. Now I got to put this right here. Restore my symmetry. You know? And I have vendors tell me, I've been watching you, dude. You sell 3 or 4 pieces, or your wife might say when you're gone, she won't touch your table. You come, you look at it, oh no, I gotta move shit around. Bam, there you go. And I'm like, well, that's just me, dude. I mean, I like symmetry, you know?
I mean, it works. The aesthetic works. Yeah. Like anytime, like I've been there, I'll see how it starts. And then as it gets closer to the end, as books start getting sold and everything like that, it still has a uniform look.
Exactly.
And I'm like, yeah, no, this is
exactly
I like how this goes.
Because the thing is, if I were a visitor at this show and I see vendors' tables look like shit, like they just took a whole bunch of crap out of a bin,
threw it on there.
Bam.
All right, hopefully they come through.
I wouldn't go nowhere with this person or their table. I'm like, no, because that's fuck him. You know, I'll go to the next guy who's
you don't give a fuck.
Exactly. You know, so and a lot of visitors told me, you have a retail background? Like, no, I'm a cop. Because man, I would think, you know, the way you got it set up and the way things look around, you come from a retail background. I'm like, no, but this is kind of like retail because we are here to sell shit, you know, and I like neatness, you know, so I say my table sells itself. I ain't got to be out there hard selling people and begging and all that kind of shit. I'm like, well, you know, it's like this. I got the best shit in this whole convention. If you like it, you do. If you don't, that's fine too. I don't give a fuck, you know, but I normally almost always sell out or come damn close to selling out because of the way we set our tables up, we talk to people, interact. Now, I've done shows, I didn't sell not one book, but I sold everything on my table, everything. Sold out. I mean, you know, it's like people ask me all the time, Jeff, what you ship out most? The books or this stuff? Now, I'm not going to say to y'all what I say to people in person, but in order for me to make money, this stuff has to sell. I'm not going to make any money just selling books at a horror convention because people come to horror cons don't come to read. Now, I'll sell 10, 20 books maybe in a 3-day period, but I sell 10 times at book fair. But again, people come to book fairs, they come to read.
That's the audience,
horror cons, they don't come to read. They come to experience the entire event. I didn't come to buy a book. When we are talking to them, that shit sounds pretty good, man. Let me check that out, you know? But I mean, that's just the way, that's the nature of the beast.
No, but you know your audience and you know the situation you're in. You definitely know that because like when I performed at MagFest early this year in January, I knew what that is, but it's the music and gaming festival. People are there for the like video game music, stuff like that, any type of nerd music. So they're going to show up.
You got gamers and you got musicians.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be a part of that, okay, cool. There are other like spots that we performed at where I'm like, all right, maybe 50 people in the room, you know, something like that. But like I said, music was an afterthought in that setting or something like that, right? So you can't expect like it to be the same thing like everywhere. As long as you know what's going on, but still at that spot, I sold a whole bunch of merch. Yeah, people were there. They like they liked the artwork, so they saw the T-shirts. Oh, let's buy that stuff. I'm like, okay, cool.
And again, once people get a feeling for you that they like your work or they like your sound or they like what you were displaying, it makes it easier for them to communicate with you. It's like I'll get people who buy stuff. Like my business name is EO Books. The books are always on one end of the table. My books here, Janice dolls are right there. I got like 3 or 4 tables. People will say, EO Books, where the books? Dude, they're right here. Because they're so lost in what I got to display. It's like, EO Books, okay, I don't see any books. They're right here.
Ding dong.
And I'll have them, people like that, they'll come to me. Let me check it out. They'll read the back. What's it about? No. If I start talking, I'm going to tell you the entire story. I don't want to do that. Check out the synopsis on the back. And then get to reading. Oh, damn. I'll take this one. You know? And you have to, at that point, you got them hooked. You know? Talk more, interact more, tell them more about the other books. If you were to buy Unleashed Volume 1, that's Volume 2 just came out. You can't do one without two, you know? And
oh, no, you definitely can't. I'm gonna chime in on that one. First of all, this is my favorite book in your series. 100%. Man, Unleashed. I was ready for that. Listen, I'm not going to spoil anybody, but if you're looking for, because this is one of the first ones where you added supernatural to it a bit, right?
The elements of that.
Yeah, exactly. Elements of the supernatural. But it's based around a Black female character. That was the main thing that got me. When he told me about it in the beginning.
It's based in Maryland.
Exactly. So listen, once you get, I'll say this, 2 paragraphs in, you're going to say, okay. 3 pages in, you're going to be like, okay. And then you're halfway through the book and you're like, how the fuck did I get here?
Yeah. I mean, see, those are the kind of stories I like to write because I don't want to be predictable. I don't want people to be able to read my story, say it one of my shorts. And it's like, well, okay, open story, good. Middle story, good. End story, some shit. I saw this coming. And I'm like, I tell everybody, I say it in joking, but I mean it. Like my book, Touched by Evil, 1 and 2. 10 shorts here, 7 here. I tell everybody at my shows, the shows I go to, if you tell me you guessed my ending, I'm gonna say you lying. You cheated. you jumped the back of the story.
You looked at it and then you went in.
Yeah. I'm like, no. You cannot see my endings coming. I pride myself on that.
No, you're absolutely right, man. There's one specifically in Touched by Evil 2. Not gonna give that away. We'll talk about it after I cut the cameras off. But the way it started, I was like, okay, you know, maybe it's some funny business going on here with this character's daughter. And I'm like, okay, cool. By the time it ended, I'm like,
I know where you at.
I'm like, wait the fuck a minute. I'm like, oh no.
I know where you're going. Yep. And that particular story, it shocked so many people.
Dude, I made one of my best friends read that one in particular. And he was like, he couldn't talk. He couldn't speak. And I'm like, yeah, they go ahead and get the book.
And see, those are the kind of stories that grab people's imagination, tug at the heartstrings, makes you angry, tangles your emotions if you don't know which way is up. Those are the kind of stories I like to write because my thing as a writer, if my stories don't touch you or make you feel some kind of way, I do my job. As a writer, story some shit. If you don't feel some kind of way emotionally about my stories, and when you finish reading them, I ain't do my job. But thus far, everybody who I've talked to, who've read my books, all my little following of people who buy my books religiously, EL, I love your work, man. Don't stop writing, blah, blah. I'm gonna pass it with everybody I know, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, do that. Thank you. You know, but again, I tell the stories that I want to tell, and I'm not afraid to be controversial.
Hey, look, sometimes you have to do it. You got to take risks, man.
Yeah.
You got to take risks, man. And it's like you said, you pull it all types of emotions. Because there are some stories I've read of yours where I'm just like, you kind of want, if there is a perspective of a good guy in the story, you're like, okay, yeah, this is gonna have a good ending or something like that, and then you're just like, at the end, you're like, this hurts. Like, it's almost like when you have a saying at festivals when someone comes up with like a child and they're like, oh, well, is this book good for my child? And you're like, no, it's child abuse. Yeah. And like, and I'm sitting here like, he's kind of right, because if you have a weak constitution, some of these stories you're not going to be able to take.
And then if you are a young person, I've had many parents come to me at horror conventions. A few fathers, a few mothers, they always ask me, my son wants this book. Is it kid friendly? No. How old is a young lady? 14. I would let my 14-year-old read that. I wouldn't. Now, if I wanted to make a sale, hell yeah, man.
Go ahead, buy it.
She love it. She love it. My stories are R-rated, NC-13, X, whatever you want to call it. My stories are brutal and vicious. And I had some people they'll come to me and later on or the next year, you know, I appreciate what you did last year about not letting my daughter read this. But I'm gonna buy it for myself now. You know, but I mean, I wouldn't feel right telling a parent that any of my stories are kid friendly just to make a sale.
I mean, you're also a parent. That's one reason why.
Because they aren't. You know, I mean, I can see myself getting cursed out behind that, and next level, getting sued behind that.
There's a potential. There's potential. You traumatized my child. Yeah. Here we go.
Yep. Now I'm defending myself against that.
Yep.
You know, but we could have avoided this shit if you just told me honestly. Is this shit kid friendly? No, it's not.
No,
it's not.
By no means.
You know,
by no means. Oh man, I still remember the first day I heard you say. I think I had like it was either a beer or something in my hands, and you were like, "Nah, it's child abuse." I was like, before I spit this out.
Yep. if you let any child under the age of 17,
yeah.
And I don't care. Well, kids see things on TV. They see things in the movies. They see things in Street Pretending Friends. They talk about everything. We did that shit too growing up.
Yeah, but here's the...
But they will not see any of this shit coming because they haven't experienced shit yet. They don't know anything yet. They don't know about the world yet.
And then on top of that, here's the thing. You can... Watching something on a screen, that's the vision someone else is giving you, right? When you're reading something in particular,
it's personal. Your mind, it's in your head.
Everything is in here, so you have to come up with the vision, the colors, the like. If this person is killing somebody, if it like you're all this is in your own head, and that might be a completely different translation from what somebody else might see. So it's like, nah, don't do it.
I tell a lot of readers, you will be pleasantly disturbed after you read any of my shit. But then that's my job. That's what I'm supposed to do. As a horror writer, that's what I'm supposed to do. You know, if I wrote horror and it was all funny or all comedy or horror is, I like horror the way it's supposed to be. And actually, what I tell people, people ask me many times, what frightens you? Shit I write about. The shit I write about.
If it can move you, it'll move someone else.
Exactly.
I tell people that all the time. Like even one of the latest conventions I played at, I debuted a new song of mine that was based off an anime I was watching. And what I ended up doing is mentally I put myself in the place of the main character. And the concept of the show is essentially this person gets sent to a new world, right? And in this new world, he's trying to figure out how to navigate through it. The issue is he keeps getting brutally murdered. But he keeps coming back to life. That's his curse. He keeps coming back to life and he has to keep navigating through without getting murdered. And I'm like, in this scenario, this takes a psychological toll on a person. And that's why this character is acting this way. I'm like, putting myself in this scenario, how would I try to navigate X, Y, Z? How would I do this? How would I respond to this? And after I debuted the song, people are like, what the fuck? Like, how did... I felt a completely different way about the show and this, that, and the other. Like, what brought you here? I'm like, I put myself in the
when your
shoes.
work touches somebody, you've done your job.
Yeah. And it's because I literally felt it. I'm like, in that situation, I know how I would act. I'd be fucked up.
Yeah.
I'd totally be fucked up. So I did my best to portray that. And once I got the response, I was like, yep, okay, I did it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I wanted it to be.
When your work touches a reader or a listener, or touch somebody visually, if you're a visual painter or whatever, if your work touches that individual, then you've done your job. It's when your work fails to move people.
Yeah.
It's time to hang the shit up.
Yeah. If they can go through the whole book and just put it down.
Yeah.
And, well, I killed a couple hours.
Like what my brother say, that's time I never get back. I wasted a whole goddamn 2 hours reading this shit, and that's what it was. Shit. So.
Oh man. Let me see. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I think I got a couple more questions for you.
We're good.
When you're traveling around, like what would you say? Just random question. When you're at conventions or any of these festivals, what do you do during like times that you want to like take a break, or do you specifically go to check out other vendors? Are you looking for food in the area? Like what's going on?
Actually, all of that, because I quit smoking.
Okay.
And believe me, people, I hate that shit. I miss my cigarettes, but I had to give it up, and I did. So at a show, you can take smoke breaks with all your other smoking vendor buddies. Everybody go there and smoke together and hang out. And there have been many times where I would buy from other vendors. I study the tables to see what they had to sell, food. So, I mean, you have to take breaks, because being at your table for 8 hours straight hurt your back, your legs, your feet. You have to get away from that table.
Your brain.
And even if you're making sales, making plenty of money, you still take a break. Just we do all of that. I mean, we walk the floors, and then I'm as big a fan as I am a vendor, because I like meeting superstars there, the celebrities, going to the panels, watching the movies. So I'll be like, Jan, I'm gonna watch this film festival. I got my movie starts an hour and a half, so I'll go watch a movie. They only like 30 minutes. Yeah. I'll come right back, and she takes her break. So you have to do that. You have to take breaks. And you want to make money. You're making money, but you got to get away from the table. You have to, But that's why I say these shows, especially the bigger shows, you can't do them by yourself.
No. I've seen people rough it at some large conventions, and I'm like, I don't know how you do this.
You got to have somebody with you.
I've seen people fall asleep at the table, man. Like literally just out. And I'm like, nobody else here?
Or they got to go to the bathroom and they don't want to ask the vendor next to them. You watch more stuff. It's just crazy. And at most conventions, they tell you your table has to be manned at all time, because if you walk away and half your shit walk with you, it's not our fault.
Yep.
You left your table unattended. So that's on you. So that's why I say you have to have somebody with you. And again, as much fun as it is, you got to walk away from the table. You have to. And believe it or not, you have all these grandiose plans after the show. I'm going to go to the movies. I want to go out to dinner. I want to do this, that, and the other. After that show's over and you cover your shit up, you go up to your room, man, I ain't fucked this. I'm done. I'm tired.
Lay down.
You're tired.
Just lay down.
You don't feel like doing shit. I mean, I'll go to the bar, hang out, and I got to call Jan, wake her up, and she may come there. A lot of our friends are down there, but you don't feel like, only at Sunday. When Sunday is early day, shut it down early, pack it up early. We done when we at 5 o'clock. Now you can go to the movies or chill, take a nap, go to movies, go to dinner. That's pretty much a free afternoon. But Friday and Saturday, late days. And you're working now. It's always fun when you're making money. You're still tired. But you still have to get your head right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that means stepping back. Yeah, you have to. I mean, making money is fun, but you still have to understand you've been on your feet all day. Your back hurt, your feet hurt, your legs hurt. You have to stretch. You got to.
It's going to wear on you, man. It's going to wear on you. And if you keep letting it wear on you, it's going to show in your interactions.
Yeah. And it may cut your convention life down because, man, I can't do this no more. I can do this until I'm going to my grave.
Hey.
I figure I got a good 10 years easy of doing conventions, because like I said, they're fun. And when you're into It could be an anime con, a horror con, comic con, pop culture con, whatever. If you're into that and you're surrounded by like-minded people, that makes the show all the more fun for you.
Is there a go-to, like, when you're like at conventions, is there like a go-to place for food in particular you try to try in like different states?
Yeah, I mean, some conventions, if they're in a convention center, they'll have food on site. Because you can't bring in outside food.
Do you have like a specific snack you want to get? Like if it's on the inside of a convention, I know for me, I'm just like, all right, listen, I need a pretzel and a hot dog, and I can run.
If they got dogs, burgers, I mean, I'll do that. At convention centers, they have that at hotel shows. Sometimes at a hotel show, if it's big, the hotel provide food for sale to the guests. Nothing's free. If it's not a really big show, but let me restate that. If it's a nice size show, medium sized type crowd, but the venue doesn't provide food, you have to either order out, or if you're next to a restaurant, go run and get some stuff and come right back. Well, I've done all of that because we get to a place like we were in Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky, where I met Tony Todd. The hotel didn't provide food for the show throughout the entire show. We were across the street from the horse race track, convention center, all their big entertainment centers. No food, no McDonald's, nothing. And I'm like, what the fuck are we going to eat?
What are we going to do?
Because you think about it, like, we eat sometime. The hotel didn't provide food, but they had a snack center in there. And I'm like, man, I don't eat this shit, man. I mean, but then Janet got hungry and she went and got a turkey club. It was kicking.
Oh.
So sometimes you got to make do with what you got.
Yeah.
You got to find a way to make it work. Or you do, like, some people bring their own food. I ain't got time for all of that shit.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it gets
too sloppy, too messy, and nah. But you improvise.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, I know, like, I've been in some scenarios where it's been no food around. I've been in some scenarios where there's crack food around.
Yeah.
Like, specifically MagFest, that's at the harbor. So it's like, okay, well, they have like a new, like, spot in there now where you can literally buy like canned cocktails and food and all this other stuff. But outside of that, it's restaurants and everything over there. That's like a perfect scenario where you don't got to leave the harbor if you don't want to. But yeah, man, some other spots is just like, man, what the heck?
And a lot of places are doing right now, food trucks.
Yeah. When I was up in Boston a couple months ago, performing for some friends of mine. Funny, I wasn't even supposed to. I was supposed to see a friend of mine perform with them, and they were like, "You bring your guitar?" I'm like, I can.
Sit in with us.
I grabbed it right before I got on the train, had to learn songs on my way up. But they just had a boatload of food trucks out there. And I'm like, oh, well, I won't starve.
Yeah, and one thing about that, I didn't start seeing food trucks at venues until last year. Because prior to COVID, we've been doing conventions, book fairs and conventions since 2010. And I had never seen, outside of book fair, let's kick the book fairs out, conventions. I had never seen a food truck at a convention, whether it be small show, big show, whatever. But in 21, got back on the circuit, food trucks, never seen that before. And I have never really eaten off one prior to seeing the first one of the show. I'm hungry as shit. I'm like, well, man, this smells pretty good. Let me try something small. And tastes pretty good. So got more food. At one time at Creature Feature, we did lunch and damn near dinner. That steak and cheese sandwich was kicking. So yes, you gotta be. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. But now like the trend is now at conventions, food trucks, because the hotels sometimes don't have the staff, or so they say, or the manpower to provide food for all of these people. But then this was coming last year. Y'all knew this place gets like this every year. You couldn't bring an extra staff or whatever. Yeah, I mean, no, we didn't not prepared for it. I'm like, that's y'all missing money. Because at Monster Mania, the hotel that it's at right now, that shows up Great Hotel many years ago. But prior to COVID, what they would do is they have a massive food court center hotel. Man, the food was good. Burgers, fries, tacos, pulled pork, whatever you wanted. Reasonably priced. I'm like, oh man, we eat lunch here. Should we eat lunch here? Or maybe dinner later on. But nice spread. Now, this year, No, it was prior to COVID. And 21, when shows got back up and running again, no food. They got a big ass liquor store right there. I'm like, we gonna be here for 10 hours straight. Who the fuck want to drink alcohol at 11 o'clock in the morning? And I'm like, where's the food at? Well, since COVID, we don't have the staff, and everybody don't want to do that kind of thing anymore. Dude, what kind of thing? Y'all got servers. So no more food court. And I'm like, that hurt me because there's nowhere to go to order food at that show. Nowhere. Where that place is in Jersey, it's called Edison, New Jersey. It's the same old Cherry Hill. And where the hotel is, there's a mall a half mile that way, but you can't leave for a half hour and come back. You can order pizzas and shit or whatever, which we ended up doing that a few times, but ordering takeout or whatever. But I mean, it's better when the venue has all those needs taken care of. But sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It just depends on the venue and the show. And that's beyond us anyway. We have no control over that as vendors. We just have to do what we got.
All right. Let's jump around a little bit, and because I wanted to touch on this as well, like because I'm a nerd. Jeff is a nerd too. You're a Marvel fan. You're a Trekkie.
Big time.
What got you into? First, we'll start with Marvel. What got you into comics in general? Like, was that just something like as a kid you were just like, pretty pictures, I'll jump in, or what?
It started something like that. I had never read a comic book in my life until probably, I want to say around 75. What happened was, I'm not going to get to the whole story, but I was hospitalized for 3 months for burns on my legs. And in the hospital, I'm all in traction and shit, legs up in the air. My room's in quarantine. So my mom came in, and it was this guy with her. And she said, Bernice, you something like comic books? I'm like, she's like, I don't know. So the guy gave me some comic books with no covers. So when they left, I put the books next to my table, next to my bed. I kept looking at them, kept staring at them. Fuck it. So I picked one up, started reading it. I read all those books in like 3 days. And they were all Marvel characters. So had it been DC characters, I'd have been a DC guy. They were all Marvel.
They got you first.
I was hooked. Yep, they got me first. So after that, after I got out of the hospital, I kept it going. As I got older and older, of course, stuff was Marvel. And I mean, my collection now is almost 13,000.
Man.
But now I will say, and I told everybody this shit, nobody believed me at the comic book shops and even at the Comic Cons. After Disney bought Marvel, the books were going to get fucked up, and they did. I've been collecting comic books since I was, from the age of 12 to maybe 55. And I stopped. The story, I told myself I could never see myself not reading comics, not collecting. The stories got so stupid. They changed all the origins of the major characters. The X-Men got fucked up. The FF went away for years. The Avengers were all over the place. Actually, your comic book fans may understand this. They may have heard this. When it was all over TV, as a matter of fact, when Captain America, when Marvel said he was always Hydra, I said, man, get the fuck out of here. I'm done. You're not going to tell me that for the last 100 fucking years, Cap was always Hydra. I ain't buying that bullshit. Iron Man, parents were aliens. I'm like, I ain't buying it. I mean, the stories got so, because they wanted to change the origins. Like DC went through a revamp of their all their characters, all their origins, or whatever. I don't care. I ain't DC. Marvel has never done that. Marvel has never revamped every character's origin. But during this time, they were trying. The fans hated it. So they come back with this old alternate history, alternate theory shit. Well,
the multiverse and all that
it didn't
stuff.
happen on Earth 616. It happened on another Earth. Nah, y'all didn't say that's bullshit.
Yeah,
so
now y'all trying to cover up.
Trying to clean it up. So I got tired of reading because the stories got so stupid. And I'm like, you're not going to tell me, again, that Cap was Hydra. I know his entire history. You're not going to tell me that Iron Man, Tony Stark, was always, his parents were aliens. Marie Stark was an alien. I ain't buying that bullshit. X-Men. I mean, it just got so stupid. I said, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I can't do it anymore because they stopped writing comics for the fans. I mean, old head fans like me. I think probably around 2015, 16, 17, when MCU was, I guess, starting to come out, or when
really started ramping up for real.
They wanted to write comics to bring in new readers. I understand that. I understand that. But don't wreck the stories that we grew up with. You know? And they did. So I said, you know what?
Like, if you're going to do that, at least like say what you're trying to save it with now first. That's what you should have done. You can give people that perspective, but nah.
That's how I got into comics.
Quick question though. Top 5 Marvel superheroes that you prefer all time. Don't even have to be in order.
Iron Man, Rom Space Knight, the FF, even though it's 4 of them.
I'll take it.
Alpha Flight, Canadian Super Team. And I would probably have to say, Shang-Chi.
Ah, yes.
Shang-Chi. How is his name pronounced in the goddamn movie? Master of Kung Fu? Like, oh, man. Because you know what? It reminds me of Bruce Lee.
There you go.
And I'm Bruce Lee fanatic.
You got a Bruce Lee poster right there.
Calendar right there behind you.
Oh, man. Good night.
Yep.
Hey, man, look.
You know what? The thing is, I've had people ask me, you a big comic book fan, you tried your hands at comics? No. That's not what I want to write.
That's a different type of deal, man.
Exactly. I mean, it's like, when you choose a genre you want to work in, stick to it. If you write romance novels, stick to that. If you do horror, stick to that. If you do comedy, stick to that. Because, I mean, you know, some writers can interchange and do that and do both well. I don't think I could. Now, sci-fi, there are hints of sci-fi in Unleashed. But it's still basically a horror story, and I can't see myself changing genre. I just wouldn't do it. But I couldn't write comedy or comic books or drama or romance. I'm not a romantic kind of guy any goddamn way. So yeah, I'll stick to what I know. I know horror.
No, understandable. Like, I tell people, you know, stick to what you know. If you want to give something a shot, but like if you're passionate about it, try it out. Yeah, cool. You could do that. Maybe it's like a spinoff or something. I don't know. Like, but just trying to do it for the sake of doing it, and you have nothing. You don't have a dog in that fight at all. Nah, don't. Leave it alone, man.
Because you're wasting your time. Probably, if your heart's not into it, you're not gonna focus where you need to focus doing the work. And like when I write, Volume 2 came out, at least Volume 2 came out in April of this year. I've already outlined Volume 3. I'm not going to start writing it until our con season over, which will be November 15th. So probably in December, I'll start writing Volume 3 of Unleashed. And I'll sit in here and write. I'll go outside in the freezing cold in a gazebo and I'll write. I can't smoke anymore. That was never really a big part of my writing anyway. Or I'll just pace in here until ideas come to me. I'm like, wait, the story's going this way. I don't want to give too much away at first. I mean, it's a whole creative process. But how I do my stories is this. My shorts, Twisted Justice, Unleashed, I came with the concept first. Okay, I know how it's going to end. That's my ending. And I start from the beginning and build up to the ending. And for me, it writes itself. I know how it's going to end, so all the rest of this shit is just build up to the ending. And for me, sometimes in writing that way, the story takes a life of its own. It writes itself like, oh shit, I can add that. Oh, another idea. I mean, it's just awesome. When I just start to flow, it's fucking awesome. There have been times I got up in the middle of the night. Shit. Write this shit down.
Listen, when it hits you, it hits you, man. I've done that. I've woken up in the middle of the night back. There was one time I had my girlfriend at the time, over this years ago. I woke up in the middle of the night. It was like a shock. She thought somebody broke into the house. I was like, nah, I just had an idea. I woke up just, she was screaming and stuff. I'm like, no, it's time to go. When my other room started playing. And look, when it comes to you, it comes to you. You gotta work.
And that's happened to me quite a few times. Not at all with these though. Because for Unleashed, the concept for Unleashed was I wanted to create a character who's black, female, who is so vicious. And she's so violent. But then why? Why is she vicious? Why is she violent? There it go. There it go right there.
Mm.
And that's where it started. I'm not going to say what that is. You have to read the book.
Oh, I know. And oh, Lord.
So when it hit me, I'm like, there it is. And throughout the entire, it's going to be a 4-part series, maybe even 5. Through the entire series, you know why Raven, that's her name, Raven. You understand why she is the way she is. Because like I said, I wanted to do a book. I want to do an entire feature with the female lead character. And unlike some horror stories or some other novels I've read, that they don't quite tell you the real origin of the story. It's like we know the origin of Freddy Krueger now, Jason now, Michael Myers now, but there are some stories where you never know how this started. It's like I don't watch that shit. But has anybody ever said why the zombie thing started in the first place? I don't know.
Oh dear.
You know, but the thing is, some stories you read or you get into, and you don't know how this occurred. With me, I wanted my girl to be off the chain, but I didn't want you to guessing, well, why is she this way? What made her this way?
Now go know. You know.
Exactly.
Now it's what's to come.
Exactly.
That's what I like about you. That's what I like about the series. And
so I want to do that. And actually, my best work is Unleashed, because Twisted Justice, I had the idea to make that an ongoing series. But oh shit, I get it in the book away. But you know what happened. The goal was to make that a multi-story novel. But I said, nah, I'm gonna end this one the way it is, because it's actually based on a story in this book. So I said, well, no. But see, again, the way I write my stories, they're not open-ended, but it's like, it's so much more you could have gave us. You could have went in any direction you wanted to. I left it open. I could actually go back to Touch Evil 1 and 2 and pick any one story and keep going with it. You know? Because I don't believe in happy endings. Everybody dies.
No, he doesn't.
I don't do happy endings.
No, not at all.
Everybody dies, you know? Because to me, that's happy endings are boring. I mean, you know, we all, the hero this, the heroine that, man, fuck all of that. I'm tired of happy endings.
Sometimes that's not true.
Yeah.
First of all.
And life doesn't work that way. The world's not like, everybody don't get a happy ending, you know? Look at Twilight Zone. A lot of those stories, and Ross Sterling was beyond his time. He was ahead of his time. He was a bad motherfucker. But his stories were about ordinary people who found themselves caught up in extraordinary situations, good and bad. And many of the stories didn't have happy endings. They ended fucked up. And that's what my stories are.
That's true. Look, and that pulls at people a different way. Like I was saying, like the show that I made that song off of, that the dude was going through all that stuff, the way the character was responding to it was very human in comparison to like a lot of anime. Normally, with that specific genre where a person goes to a different world, they call it isekais. Normally, a guy goes to a different world, he's like super powerful for no reason, everything ends all happy, whoop-de-doo, he beats armies by himself. And I'm like, all right, cool. This dude, he's like a regular Joe, goes to this other place, still a regular Joe, but now he's dealing with people with powers and super assassins, and he's just like, what the hell do I do in this scenario?
I can see that working because sometimes you have to do things differently. I mean, we all know the formulaic story where boy meets girl, girl gets in trouble, boy saves girl. Man, fuck
boy
all of that.
figures it out.
Yeah, fuck all of that.
Or boy is weak, boy somehow finds strength, and then beats a god. I don't know.
All that shit's been done over and over. It's been beat to death, even in comics. So my thing, the way I said out when I first started doing this is, well, you know what? After I learned how to do this, and after I learned from all of my mistakes, you know what? I want to write stories that are unconventional, that are totally unconventional, and I think I've done that because readers have told me. I get emails. I get probably 2 emails a day about somebody who, Jeff, I read this. I love it. We talk about it. So I mean, because the stories touch the reader, like we said earlier. I did my job. But fans want to get so deep into this. I could have read this over and over. I wish it had lasted forever. I'm like, nah, at some point I got in the story, but I know you're going because, as you saw, it was left open. Some stories are that way. But again, the endings, I can't point to any one story. These are all shorts, Touch People 1 and 2, and Faces. I can't point to one that has happy ending.
I'll tell you this. You might not be able to point to a happy ending, but nobody's going to be able to point to exactly how that ending is going to go. And whether it's, here's the thing, like I'll say out of the stories I've read, it might not be a happy ending, but in some facets, it's like, no, this is how this would go. Like, and I'll say it like this. When you read Jeff's stories, you're going to be fulfilled in the end in one way or another. Like, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
That's my experience with it. So yeah, man.
Yeah, because I figured you either love it, you may hate it, but it gets an emotional response. And that's my job. Because there's one story where a baby is killed. I took a lot of hit for that. I took a lot of flack for that story. I mean, I was cursed out. How the fuck could you write this? What were you thinking? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, it's a story. Remember, this shit didn't happen. It's not real. I cried all night long when I read it. Oh, I'm like, man, I heard that shit for a year. And I'm like, well, if the story affected you in that way, I did my job. That's what I mean, I had no idea how people would take that, but since you read the story and you know how things went, it was done to tug at emotional heartstrings. That's why I wrote it that way. Yeah. And I ain't gonna lie, it was hard to write some of those scenes. Even for I'm writing this shit, and I'm like, come on, dude, you really want to do that?
Dude, because it's a piece of you in there, man. Yeah, so you're just like, fuck.
I'm like, well, yeah, the hell with it. I can't stop now. And I caught out of flack for that story. Most people loved it. Equally, more people hated it because of the baby thing.
Well, here's the thing. Like, traditionally, think about it. Like, in American horror, like, stories, whether it's movies, novels, stuff like that, they normally keep the children out of it. Like, especially infants. Like, they normally keep them out of it. Like, hell, even in one of the, what was it? Oh, God. How am I forgetting this? One of the latest Michael Myers movies. He was walking through a house, and there was a baby crying. He looked at the baby and then just kept walking. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay. He left the baby alone. But
he don't want to kill babies, but in that regard, it doesn't make sense because he kills children, preteens, adults, elderly, but little itty bitty baby can't die. And I know why that was done too, because had he killed an infant in a crib in that story, they would probably lost legions of fans.
Oh, yeah. Especially, like I said, culturally in America, that's not a thing. You watch a lot of movies that are like in other countries, you'll see it. Yep. You will see it. Yep. So it's just a different thing. But yeah, man, I guess we're gonna take this time to like wrap up a little bit. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Oh, no problem.
But just where can people find you, like on the internet, your website, stuff like that? Go ahead and let them know.
All right. My website is eljefferson.net. You can find the books on Amazon, Amazon.com. You can find them on BarnesandNoble.com. They're available online. Lulu.com also. And the books you will look for: Twisted Justice, Touched by Evil, Touched by Evil 2, Face of Evil, and my best work, Unleashed. All available online.
Awesome, man. Yo, Jeff, thank you so much.
Thank you for
coming on the show, man. This is wonderful. I wish you nothing but blessings, health, safety, and I just like seeing you win, man.
Same for you.
Seeing you
Appreciate
succeed,
it,
brother. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Once again, check out his work, especially the Unleashed series. This is my favorite of his series. Like he says, this best work. He is not lying. Thank you guys for tuning in.
All right.
All right, fam. Thanks once again for tuning in to another episode of the O on God podcast. Big thanks to E.L. Jefferson. Make sure you check out eljefferson.net for his novels and updates. Till next time, I'm Tovaun Anthony, and I wish you nothing but health, safety, peace, love, and blessings.